The whisper in the dust. The sun was sinking low over the desert, spilling copper light across the jagged mesas. Wind hissed through the dry grass, carrying the sound of faraway thunder that never came. In that dying light, a lone rider cut across the horizon, his hat pulled low, his horse a black streak against the fading gold. Elias Grant, once a soldier, then a drifter, and now a man with nowhere left to run, rode toward the broken silhouette of Hollow Creek Ranch. The land he'd bought for a price too small and a promise too vague. Folks said no one stayed there longer than a week. Others said the land itself was cursed, that it drove men mad or buried them in their sleep. Elias didn't believe in curses. He believed in guilt, and he carried enough of it to fill a graveyard. He rode up the slope, the wood creaking under his boots as he dismounted. The house ahead leaned against the wind like a dying animal. The boards were gray, the windows clouded, and the air smelled of rot and dust. Still, Elias stood tall, wide shoulders silhouetted against the setting sun, and said quietly, "Home." That night, the desert wind howled through the rafters. Elias sat by a flickering lamp, rolling a cigarette between his fingers. The silence was thick, too thick, the kind of silence that listened back. He had barely taken a breath when a faint voice whispered, "Go deeper, make it quick inside." He froze, his hand halfway to his gun. The voice wasn't a trick of the wind. It came from beneath the floorboards. Slow, deliberate, and female. Elias's jaw tightened. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the wind pressing against the door like a restless spirit. He lifted the lamp, light spilling across the cracked floor, and noticed a loose plank near the hearth. The edges were worn smooth, as though someone had touched them many times. He crouched, pried it up with his knife, and the lamp flickered violently. Beneath the plank lay a small leather-bound diary, its cover scorched by fire and its pages brittle with age. He opened it carefully. April 9th, 1858. The curse is real. It isn't hunger or fever. It's the land itself. Every man who digs the well hears her voice. Every drop of water tastes like blood. Elias read the rest by lamplight, each word tightening a knot in his gut. The diary belonged to Clara Mayfield, the rancher's daughter who had vanished 20 years ago. She'd written of strange dreams, of whispering voices from the earth, of something that demanded to be released. By the last entry, her handwriting had turned frantic. He said he could stop it, but he was wrong. "I'm going deeper. If I don't come back, don't follow me. The well isn't just a hole, it's a mouth." Elias shut the book slowly. Outside, the wind died. And then, from the dark well behind the house, came the sound of breathing. The next morning, Elias saddled up his horse, but he didn't leave. Something in that diary had taken root in his mind. At noon, he walked to the edge of the property, where the old well sat covered by a warped wooden lid. The rope pulley was snapped, the bucket gone. The stones were blackened, as if scorched from within. When he leaned closer, the air was cold, unnaturally so. A woman's voice echoed faintly from below. "Please, make it quick inside before it wakes." Elias stepped back fast, his heart hammering. For a moment he thought he saw a shape, pale hands reaching up through the darkness, but when he blinked, it was gone. That evening, he rode in the nearest town, Red Hollow, a place where even the dust looked tired. The saloon was half empty, the piano out of tune. He asked the barkeep, a thin old man with one good eye, "You ever hear of Clara Mayfield?" The barkeep froze mid-polish. "Boy, you best forget that name. Mayfield Place been dead since before I was born." Elias took a sip of whiskey. "Dead how?" The barkeep leaned closer. "Old Henry Mayfield dug that well with his bare hands. Said the water was sweet, till the night he found his daughter down there. They said her body was twisted wrong, like the desert took her apart. Next day, Henry put a bullet in his own head. Since then, every man who's bought that land swears he hears her whispering." Elias's hand tightened around his glass. "And what'd she say?" The barkeep's eye gleamed. "Always the same words, go deeper." That night, Elias dreamed of a woman in white, standing in the moonlight beside the well. Her hair drifted like smoke, her eyes hollow but pleading. She reached for him and gasped, "You can break it. but you have to go inside. He woke before dawn, sweating, the sound of her voice still echoing in his skull. By the time the sun rose, he was already digging. He worked for hours, shovel biting into dry earth. The deeper he went, the colder it got. Around noon, his spade struck something hard, wood. He brushed away the dirt to reveal the edge of an old coffin, the lid split by age. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he pried it open. Inside lay nothing but ashes, and a small silver pendant shaped like a tear. He lifted it, and the wind shrieked through the canyon. Suddenly, the world changed. The sky dimmed. The ground trembled, and from the shadows of the well, she rose, Clara Mayfield, her face pale as moonlight, her voice soft and broken. "You shouldn't have come. The curse binds us both now." Elias stumbled back, but her gaze held him, not with malice, but sorrow. Around her, ghostly images flickered, men digging, dying, burning, one after another. The curse had devoured them all. "You can free me," she whispered, "but you must go deeper into the heart." Elias's voice cracked. "The heart of what?" "The land," she said, "where blood meets earth, the thing my father buried, and what he used me to seal." She reached for him, and when her fingers touched his, he saw flashes. A man's face, Henry Mayfield, performing some dark ritual, burying something alive beneath the well. Clara screams. Fire. Silence. Then darkness. Elias woke, lying beside the well, the pendant still clutched in his fist. The air was heavy with dust, but the voice was gone. He looked toward the ranch house. The door stood open. Inside, the lamp he'd left cold was burning again, bright as day. He rose, his legs unsteady, and walked toward it. On the wall above the hearth, words were scratched into the wood. "It's not the land that's cursed. It's the men who bury their sins." He stared for a long time, then whispered to himself, "Then I guess I've got digging to do." Outside, thunder rolled, closer now. The storm that had haunted the desert for years was finally coming. And somewhere beneath Hollow Creek Ranch, something ancient stirred, the depths of blood and hope. The storm came at dawn. Lightning cracked over the mesa, tearing through the sky like God's own whip. The rain fell hard, the first real rain Hollow Creek had seen in years, turning the dust into blood-colored mud. Elias stood by the well, the pendant clenched tight in his hand. Every time lightning flashed, he saw her face again, Clara, pale and pleading, the echo of her voice whispering through the thunder. "You can end it, but only if you go deeper." He looked down into the blackness below. The wind roared out of it like a furnace, carrying the smell of rot and iron. Something alive, or almost alive, moved down there, restless after decades of slumber. Elias muttered to himself, "I've been running from ghosts all my life." Time I met one head-on. He tied a rope to the old oak beside the well, wrapped the other end around his waist, and began his descent. The descent. The air grew colder the deeper he went. The well's walls narrowed, the stones slick with centuries of damp. Water dripped somewhere far below, echoing like a heartbeat. Halfway down, he heard her again, Clara's voice, faint but urgent. "You're close. It's beneath the heartstone. But it'll try to stop you." "What will?" he whispered. The thing he fed. The curse he called salvation. The rope swayed violently. Elias looked up. Nothing there. Then, out of the dark below, hands shot from the walls. Dozens of ghostly, half-formed shapes clawing toward him, faces twisting in agony. They were the souls of the men who died here, those who tried and failed to break the curse. Elias swung his lantern, its light burning through them like morning through fog. "Back," he shouted. "You've had your time." The spirits shrieked and scattered, their wails fading into the stone. When the noise died, he realized the rope was slick with blood, his own hands cut raw from gripping it. But he didn't stop. At last, his boots hit the bottom. The heart beneath the earth. The cavern beneath the well was massive, a natural hollow carved by time and water. In its center stood a black altar of stone, and on it lay the remnants of something monstrous, a heap of bones fused with roots and rusted metal. The air throbbed with power, ancient and wrong. On the altar's surface was carved a single phrase. By blood the land was bound. Elias stepped closer, raising his lantern. The light caught on a stain spreading from beneath the altar, a deep, pulsing red. It wasn't paint. It was still wet. And then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, and there she was, Clara Mayfield, or what was left of her. Her body was spectral now, her dress fluttering like mist. Her eyes glowed faintly, filled with sorrow. But something else was rising behind her, a shadow with her father's shape. "You shouldn't have come, boy," the shadow said in Henry Mayfield's voice. "The land takes what it's owed." Elias drew his revolver, though he knew bullets meant nothing here. "You killed your daughter to save yourself, didn't you?" "I saved the ranch," the spirit roared, voice shaking the cavern. "Without the sacrifice, the drought would have swallowed us all. The land demands life, and she gave hers." Clara's spirit turned toward him, tears of light streaming down her face. "No, Father, you didn't save it. You cursed it." The ground trembled. The altar began to crack open, and from within, something heart-like and monstrous began to pulse. A mass of red veins and stone. It beat once, twice, like the earth's own heart. Elias understood then. The curse wasn't just haunting the land. It was the land. The well, the soil, the storms, all bound by that corrupted heart. He clenched the pendant in his hand, Clara's tear-shaped charm, and said quietly, "Then let's finish what you started." The breaking. The moment he stepped toward the altar, Henry's shadow lunged. It struck like lightning, knocking Elias to the ground. The revolver flew from his hand and vanished into the dark. The ghostly figure loomed over him. "You can't kill what's already dead, son." Elias spat blood. "Maybe not, but I can bury what should have stayed buried." He grabbed the silver pendant and drove it into the pulsing heart. The cavern screamed. A shock wave of light erupted, throwing him backward. Shadows burst from the walls, hundreds of them, the souls of men, women, children, all bound to the curse. For a heartbeat, they filled the air like a storm of ash and fire. Then came Clara's voice, desperate and trembling. "Elias, it's feeding. You have to give it more. Your blood, not mine." He looked down. The pendant had cut deep into his palm. Blood dripped onto the altar, sizzling as it touched the stone. Each drop burned brighter than the last. The heart pulsed faster. The walls began to collapse. But beneath the roar, a soft voice whispered. Her voice, steady this time. "Go deeper. Make it quick inside. That's where it ends." He stumbled forward, pressing his bleeding hand deeper into the heart. Pain lanced through him. Fire, ice, memory. He saw flashes of his past. The war, the blood, the people he couldn't save. Every sin he'd buried came rushing back. "You think you can wash your hands clean?" the shadow sneered. Elias looked up, tears streaking through the grime. "No, but I can damn sure try." He drove his hand all the way in. The heart shattered. The dawn of Hollow Creek. When Elias opened his eyes, he was lying in the desert. The storm had passed. Morning light spilled over the mesa, soft and gold. The well was gone, just a crater now, filled with rainwater that shimmered like glass. The air was clean. The wind was quiet. He sat up slowly. His hands still bled, but the pain was fading. In the mud beside him lay the pendant. No longer silver, but pure white, glowing faintly like a drop of dawn. A figure stood on the other side of the crater. "Clara," whole this time, smiling gently. "You did it," she said. "The curse is gone." Elias rose to his feet. "Guess I did." "You freed me," she whispered. "And yourself." He looked around. The land that had been dead for decades now shimmered with green. Grass was sprouting, birds circling overhead. For the first time, Hollow Creek was alive. He smiled faintly. "Looks like the desert found hope after all." Clara stepped closer, her hand brushing his cheek, soft as wind, warm as sunlight. "So did you." And then she was gone. Epilogue. The ranch reborn. Weeks passed. Elias stayed on the land, rebuilding piece by piece. The townsfolk came out to see for themselves. They found clear water in the well, crops growing, the air fresh again. Someone asked him once if he believed in curses. He smiled. looking out over the valley, where the morning sun turned the grass gold. "Nah," he said, "not curses. Just reckon some places hold on to pain till someone's willing to bleed for hope." That night, he sat on the porch, hat tilted low, guitar across his knees. The stars burned bright above the mesa. For the first time in years, he felt peace. The wind moved softly through the fields, not a whisper, but a sigh, almost like a thank you. And as the firelight flickered in his eyes, Elias Grant, the man who rode into a haunted land with nothing left to lose, smiled to himself and whispered, "Go deeper, make it quick inside. Ain't that what life's about?" The desert, once cursed and silent, answered with the rustle of living things, a promise of hope where death had ruled.